Chapter 11. Delilah. As much as I hated to admit it, lunch with Logan and his friends wasn't actually terrible. I'd always assumed that Josh and Matt would be the worst, but they turned out to be pretty nice. And the girls were great. Despite my wariness and despite my lack of interest in becoming one of them, I felt as though Mani, Hannah, and Tonya were gently welcoming me into the group. Maybe Delilah can resolve it, Mani said when I settled in my seat and was comfortable enough to open my bottle of organic elderflower and apple juice. Everything I drank out was organic. 4 months in, and I still wasn't used to it. Resolve what? I asked, intensely nervous. My first test. Tonya sat up straight. She was a natural storyteller, the leader of the trio. She leaned in close enough for me to see the lack of pores on her skin and smell her perfume. Something expensive and very grown up. She smelled like a woman, not a girl. Hannah has a hot date this weekend with an older guy. A freshman from Stanford, she said, sullenly. I was impressed. Hannah didn't strike me as the kind of girl who'd get asked out by a college guy. She was sweet and quiet, with a smooth brown complexion that blotched red whenever she got embarrassed. How do you know him? He's a friend of my brother's. We met over the summer. It's not really a date. He said they're having a party at his frat house this weekend and invited me to go. Her gaze flicked up for a split second, long enough for me to catch it. Something I was very, very familiar with. Hannah was scared. Of what? I wasn't sure, but I knew that look, that quiet panic of prey. But she doesn't want to go, Tonya delivered the line with triumph, the final twist in her story. Which is bananas, Mani said. I mean, it's a college guy from Stanford. Ooh, Stanford, Josh sang, his hands clasped under his chin. Shut up, Josh, Mani said without looking at him. Come on, Hannah, we're pushing you for your own good here. You need to live a little. Hannah sighed and slurped up a noodle with a small shrug. Is your brother going to be at the party? I asked. She shook her head, her corkscrew curls bouncing. He's doing a semester abroad in Paris. Her brother is so protective of her, Tonya said. He'd probably microchip her if he could, so he'd know where she is at all time. Hannah bit her lip to stiffen a laugh. Stop, he's really not that bad. Oh yeah, he is, Mani said. So now that he's away, it's time for a little sis to go out and play. Right, Delilah? 3 pairs of eyes rested on my face. I looked at them, my mind flailing wildly. How the hell would I know? I was about to mumble something about not having a clue when I realized I did have something to say. Hannah was shy and retiring. You could tell she'd been brought up on a steady diet of girls should be seen and not heard. Every time she laughed, she covered her mouth, as though laughter had to be hidden. And some guy thought it was a good idea to invite her to a frat party, a place where she'd be outmatched and alone in a house full of strangers. I didn't even know the guy, and already I wanted to punch him in the face. Actually, I think the party's a terrible idea. My voice came out like a spoon clanging on crystal. Too sharp, too noticeable. Tone it down. But I couldn't. I couldn't tone it down after Brandon, after Logan. I glanced at him, 2 seats down, laughing with his buddies, and something in me hardened. Frat parties are basically a cesspool of horny guys drunk on privilege and booze, trying to get girls dead drunk so that they can take advantage of them. I mean, sure, there's a stereotype, and I'm sure some frat parties are nice, and some frat guys respect women or whatever, but this guy is asking a high school girl to come on her own to a place where she'll be completely surrounded by his friends. I don't think you should go. Not without a shitload of pepper spray and a couple of tasers. By the time I finished my speech, they were all staring at me with mouths open. Crap, I'd gone too far. I shouldn't have said all those things. Mani let out a bark. It took me a second to realize she was laughing. My face burned until she reached out and gave me a one-armed hug. Delilah, that was fucking awesome, she said. Even Tonya was nodding, her mouth stretched into a gorgeously smile. I have to admit it, when you put it that way, it doesn't seem like such a great idea. She leaned closer to me. Hey, anyone ever told you that you look a lot like She was quickly shushed by Mani, who glared at her. I'm sorry, Mani said. Ignore her. I was about to ask who Tonya was about to say I looked like when Hannah said, Thanks. I really like him, but I didn't feel good about the invitation, and I couldn't put my finger on it. You said it perfectly. Damn, now I feel bad for pushing you to get with them, Tonya said. Oh no, don't feel bad, Hannah said. She leaned into Tonya. You just don't want me to miss out on life experiences. You can miss out on this one, Tonya said, and the two of them laughed, and Tonya reached out and gave me a fist bump. I couldn't hold back my smile. I never wanted to join the cool crowd. never coveted a spot at the table. But the girls' approval gave me a surprisingly sweet burst of joy. They like me. They really do. They think I give good advice. I wanted to bite my lip and giggle and tell Aisha. Aisha? What with Menace's surprise visit and the Logan surprise visit, and then being forced to sit with his friends for lunch, I hadn't had a chance to think of Aisha. I twisted in my seat to look at my usual lunch table. I caught Aisha's eye, but she turned away as soon as our eyes met. Logan was watching me with a little smile, smug and secure in the knowledge that his friends would charm me into a false sense of acceptance. My gaze flicked to Tonya, Mani, and Hannah, now discussing their college applications. Every move they made, every hair toss, every laugh, every hand wave became suspicious. Do they know? Do they know Logan's blackmailing me? Which colleges are you applying to, Delilah? Mani said. Like hell I would tell any of them anything. The usual. The UCEs and maybe Stanford. I don't know. I muttered and kept my eyes on my food so no one would be interested in talking to me. I hated them all. The fun guys and the cool girls, even sweet Hannah. They must know. They'd been his friends for years. Part of them must be aware of what he's capable of. But the way they were interacting with one another over lunch was so easygoing, so casual and light, like everything was sunshine and flowers, which only made it worse. They all thought Logan was a nice guy. They loved him. You could see it from the way they shifted their bodies to face him slightly when he sat down, and the way they watched him when he talked. They were under his spell. I couldn't blame them. Logan was fizz and fireworks. Beneath the model good looks was a brain bursting with brilliance, delicious sharp-edged wit, an intense stare that made you feel like he was truly listening to what you were saying. Irresistible. I knew what it was like to be under his spell, to be sucked into the Logan vortex. I stood up abruptly. Conversation around me ceased. Sorry, I just remembered I need to, I have this assignment for world history. Anyway, I'll see you guys around. Logan started to get up. No! I snapped. Oops. I tried again. More sugar this time. I really need to finish my essay. Thanks for this. I gestured at the table. Bye. As soon as the door swung shut behind me, I let out my breath. The noise was sliced off. The smells of cooked meat and ripe fruit no longer as rich and cloying. Thank God. I could think clearly again. I sent Aisha a text. Hey, can you come out? I need to talk to you. I paced around for a bit outside, checking my phone every 5 seconds. Aisha, come on. I need to talk to you. Still, no reply. Ugh. I shook my head and headed out the building and toward Brenner Hall, where my next class was. Aisha was in world history with me, so if I got there early, I could try to ambush her before class. I passed by the track field, where the really dedicated athletes had chosen to spend their lunch hour jogging under the blazing California sun. In between the shadows of the trees, my scalp prickled with the heat. I sifted through the events from my weekend, discarding things I couldn't share with Aisha, which was all the things. Literally, all of them. Crap. Somehow, I had to explain to Aisha why I ditched her during lunch without actually telling her anything. The minutes crawled by as I stood outside the classroom, shuffling my feet awkwardly, trying my best to look inconspicuous as more and more students filled the building. I pretended to be interested in the bulletin boards and a poster about Earth Day, and the honeybees were so important to the ecosystem. Just what I wanted to read. I heard a muttered tsk and turned to see Aisha heading my way. I hurried up to her and tried to look as pathetic as I knew how, which was very pathetic indeed. Aisha, I'm sorry I couldn't sit with you all at lunch. You couldn't? Really? She cocked an eyebrow at me. Yes, really, I wanted to, but that's funny because all I saw was you hanging on to Logan and ignoring me. The red rage inside me leapt up. This was all Logan's fault. That's not what happened. You don't understand. Come on, don't be so mad at me. It was just lunch. That was weak. You don't ditch your best friend at lunch to sit with some guy. Aisha snorted. It's not just that, okay? You were all excited about your date with Logan, and I get it. He's a hottie. I was super excited for you too. I mean, I helped pick out your outfit and everything. And then you had your date, and it's like boom. Later, Aish. You didn't even care enough to update me on how it went. I sent you messages asking you about the date, and you ignored all of them. Aisha glared at me for a few more seconds, then sighed. We could talk later. Relief flooded me. Okay, yeah. After school? Then I remembered that I had to work after school. Or tomorrow? Disappointment crossed her face. Yeah, I guess. Aisha whooshed into the classroom, leaving me alone in the corridor. I let my head fall against the wall and stayed there until a cough made me look up. Mr. Francis, the world history teacher, had arrived and was frowning at me. "Everything okay, Delilah?" "Yeah." I stalked into the classroom. Aisha sat sullenly in her seat. I sank into mine and willed myself to become invisible, to melt into the air, to stop existing. I gripped my pencil so tight my hand went numb, and still, I couldn't make my heart slow down. Couldn't stop the hole from opening up and swallowing me. The rest of the day was more of the same. Everybody had seen me sitting with Logan and his posse. There was a few curious smiles thrown my way. 1 or 2 people. The kids who would never otherwise give me a second glance came up to me and said, "Hi." Tried to dig out more information about how I snagged Logan when he'd been so unattainable. There were even more sharp glances, lips curled into a sneer, snatched whispers like, "Why would he choose her?" Every stare, every quiet comment weighed heavily on my shoulders until I found myself hunching once more, my hands cupping my elbows, the way I used to when Brandon was around. The realization slashed through everything. The air around me thrummed. I'd gotten rid of Brandon just to replace him with Logan. And the rest of my time in high school would be spent playing by Logan's rules, having to sit with his friends at lunch instead of Aisha, asking in a very sweet and sad voice, "Could I please sit with Aisha today?" Him smiling indulgently at me. We go to school dances as a couple, and he decided that we should dance. And all the while, what I had done would hang over me. A hot kernel set deep in my gut, getting hotter by the second, until my entire being was filled with its heat. I had to fight back. I'd call him out on his bluff. If he claimed to love me as much as he did, he wouldn't want me behind bars. Probably not. Anyway, it was worth a try. My resolve lasted throughout my shift at the library, when I channeled some of my frustration into packaging orders. "Wow, someone's being really productive today," Lisa said, from behind her laptop. She had a state-of-the-art computer from the school to keep up with the cataloging, but she chose to use her clunky laptop to keep all her records. I made a non-comical grunt and continued wrapping packages with a vengeance. There was a knock at the door, and my head snapped up. Lisa and I looked at each other, wide-eyed. Nobody ever came down here. "Hello?" came a voice, even though it was muffled. Every hair on the back of my neck stood up. "I'm looking for Delilah. I was told she'd be down here." Oh my fucking God. It was Logan. "Why are you taking visitors down here?" Lisa snapped, with her cheeks red. I could kill him. Thank God the door was locked. "I'm not. Sorry," I whispered to Lisa. "I'll get rid of him." I swept my table clean and then unlocked the door and slipped out, closing it tight behind me. "Ready to go?" he said, flashing me a trademark sweetheart smile. That smile that stole hearts. I wanted to snatch it off his face. "Your shift was over 15 minutes ago. I was waiting outside, but don't you ever come to my workplace again," I hissed. He looked surprised, but recovered himself and nodded. "I'm sorry, D. I guess I got impatient. I just wanted to see you so badly. Anyway, are you done? Should we go?" "I'm taking the bus home," I said. "No, you're not," he said easily. "Come on, I'll drive you." I inhaled, ready to roar at him, shove him back, tell him to get the hell out of my life, when the door swung open and Lisa walked out. She cocked her head to one side when she spotted me and Logan. "What are you kids still doing here?" she chirped in her tiny, sweet librarian voice. My heart thudded at how angry she must be right now, though she was hiding it very well. "I came to pick up Delilah," Logan said. "I didn't know you had a boyfriend," she said. "That is so cute." I gave her a weak smile. "Delilah told me so much about her job and how great it is working for you." "She has?" Lisa's eyebrows disappeared into her hairline. I shook my head quickly. "He's exaggerating." I imagined stabbing Logan right in the head. How dare he come here and talk to my employer and invade the only space that's mine, and... Lisa laughed. "Okay, sorry to cut this short, but I have to rush off. You kids have fun," she said before walking off, her skirt swishing in time with her ponytail. Only I caught the glimpse of coldness in her eyes, and the sight of it twisted like a knife in my guts. "Let's go," I growled and headed out the library without waiting for him. I refused to look at him throughout the car ride. I stared straight ahead, ignoring all of his attempts at making conversation. I showed him what a miserable asshole I could be when I put my mind to it. I frowned when he pulled up in front of a supermarket, but refused to give him the satisfaction of asking what we were doing here. "Come on, we've got a bit of shopping to do," he said. I closed my eyes for a moment, drawing from that kernel of rage, letting my anger get good and hot, then turned to face him. "Cut the crap, Logan. I'm not playing your game anymore." His eyebrows knitted together. "But D, I'm not. It's over. You can go to the cops or whatever. I'd rather be in prison than do this with you." The last 2 words were sped out, dripping with revulsion. I leaned back, every inch of my skin prickling, battle jumps throbbing throughout my veins. Logan blinked and ran his fingers through his hair. I don't know what to say. I thought things were going so well. You got along really well with my friends and the girls, and I don't have a problem with the girls. I have a problem with you. Logan shook his head, his face a mask of sadness. I'm really, really sorry you feel that way, D. Fine, alright. I could have left up, punched my way through the car roof and clouds and through the atmosphere. I called him out on his bluff, and it worked. I was going to be free of his nightmare. There was a click. Logan had unbuckled his seatbelt. I watched for a second, bemused, as he got out of the car and walked across the parking lot toward the supermarket. He stopped at the old payphone out front, took out his wallet. I scrambled to unlock my seatbelt, shot out of the car. Too slow, too fucking slow. Images flashed through my mind as I ran. The red and blue flashes of cops' cars screeching into the parking lot. Everybody watching. Phones flashing as I got cuffed and pushed inside a cop car. Me, in an orange jumpsuit. Mom sobbing. Why, D? Why did you do it? His fingers moved across the buttons, pushed 3 numbers. He glanced up, saw me running, and smiled apologetically. I reached him just as he said, Yes, I'd like to report a murder. The murder of Detective Brandon Jackson. I grabbed his arm, tried to wrench the phone out of his hand, but he was a lacrosse player, and I might as well be made of marshmallow. Weak, soft. I couldn't budge him. I could only whisper, Sorry, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. Please hang up now. Please. Please. A couple of shoppers came out of the store, glanced at us, and kept going. Logan watched me in silence for a moment, while the operator said something. Just as I thought that my heart would tear itself out of my rib cage, Logan smiled, showing a flash of beautifully straight teeth, and said, Oops, sorry, I was mistaken. Thanks for your time. And hung up. For the next few moments, there was no sound but the roar of blood in my ears. My heart pounding, a mad beast. Then, his eyes wide with sincerity, Logan took my hand and squeezed it. I'm sorry I had to do that, D, but I need you to know I'm serious about this. I'm serious about us. All I could do was gape at him. Everything had blurred into fuzz behind him. The shoppers streaming in and out, the cars driving past, the sounds and the smells. It all felt unreal. Logan was the only thing that was clear-edged and sharp, and though he spoke quietly, his words were so solid that they were almost physical. I want to give us a chance. A real chance, he continued. Come on, D. We deserve this. You know? We're going to be so good. I swear. Every cell in my body worked with revulsion. He was delusional, completely and utterly. I wanted to spit in his face and tell him to go to hell, but I couldn't do it to Mom. It would destroy her. Patience. Pa was always telling me to be patient, to work my way out of problems, slowly, patiently. I saw myself at NNUS, walking across campus in the sticky tropical heat, surrounded by students speaking Singlish, a place where no one knew who I was, the bodies I left behind, the secrets I'd buried. There was hope. I had to suck it up and pretend to be Logan's girlfriend for the rest of high school. That wasn't so bad. I was planning on applying to NUS anyway. That meant I'd only have to keep this charade up for another year or so. And then I'd be out of here. It was a familiar goal, one I kept turning to whenever Brandon's fits found their way into my body. It felt like returning to an old friend. College, where I would finally be free. I closed my eyes and said, All right, fine. I could do this. I could be patient for a year in exchange for a lifetime of freedom. End of chapter 11. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.